Right now, a clock is running. Tonight, at exactly 8 p.m. Eastern Time, the most powerful man on Earth delivers his answer. Not in a press conference, not in a tweet, in fire. Every bridge in Iran, every power plant, gone, he says, by midnight. Donald Trump has drawn a line in the sand so thick, so loud, so profane, that governments on 5 continents are watching a single clock tick toward 8 p.m. tonight. What happens in the next few hours could reshape the global economy, end a war, or ignite the most devastating military escalation since World War II. This is not speculation. This is Tuesday. If this moment matters to you, and it should, share this before you finish watching, because right now, every second counts. On Sunday morning, April 5th, Donald Trump did something that no sitting American president has ever done. He posted a profanity-laced ultimatum to a foreign government on social media. The message was directed at Iran. It said, "Open the Strait of Hormuz," or "Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day," all wrapped up in one. Then he signed it, and, this is not a joke, praise be to Allah. Within hours, his team confirmed the deadline. Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. No ambiguity, no diplomatic softening, no spokesperson to clarify the language. Just a deadline, a threat of complete demolition, and a countdown. The world has been watching that clock ever since. To understand why this deadline is terrifying, you need to understand what has already happened. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a surprise joint attack on Iran, while nuclear negotiations between the two countries were still active. The strike, codenamed Operation Epic Fury, killed Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei in the opening hours. It destroyed nuclear facilities, military command centers, and government buildings. It also killed civilians, including children as young as 8 months old. Iran retaliated, massively. It launched waves of ballistic missiles and drones at Israel, at U.S. military bases across 9 countries, and, most critically, it closed the Strait of Hormuz. That decision changed everything. Most people have heard of the Strait of Hormuz. Few people understand what closing it actually means. The strait is a narrow waterway, 21 miles wide at its tightest point, connecting the Persian Gulf to the rest of the world's oceans. Through that 21-mile gap flows approximately 20 million barrels of oil every single day. That is 20% of all the oil on Earth. China gets it through there. Japan gets it through there. South Korea, India, Europe. All of them. When Iran closed the strait on March 4th, the global economy didn't just flinch, it shook. Brent crude oil, the global benchmark, surged past $100 per barrel for the first time in 4 years. It peaked at $126. Kuwait, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE collectively stopped producing 6.7 million barrels per day because their storage was filling up with oil they could not move. The International Energy Agency called it the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. Not this decade, not this century, history. At the gas pump in America, the number climbed past $4 per gallon by March 31st, a 30% increase in just 1 month. Food prices began rising because 1/3 of the world's fertilizer passes through that same strait. Qatar declared force majeure on its natural gas contracts, meaning it legally could not deliver what it had promised, because its LNG tankers could not leave. The Philippines declared a national energy emergency. Thailand's diesel prices shot up by 60%. Europe, still recovering from the Russia-Ukraine energy shock, watched its gas storage levels drop as Dutch gas benchmarks nearly doubled. Countries that had never seen a gas station queue were building them. All of this from 21 miles of water. Trump's response to the strait closure was not quiet. He threatened to seize control of the waterway outright. He warned Iran not to mine it. He ordered a military campaign to reopen it beginning March 19th. He has now extended his deadline for Iran to comply, voluntarily, multiple times. The first deadline passed, then a 10-day extension, then 11 days. He gave a day for Easter. He said, quote, he wanted to be a nice person. But tonight, he says there are no more extensions. Tonight is different. At his press conference on Monday, Trump stood flanked by his defense secretary, his CIA director, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He told the room that the United States has a plan where every bridge in Iran could be destroyed by midnight. Every power plant, gone, burning, exploding, never to be used again. He said this could happen in 4 hours if he wanted it to. He said he doesn't want it to happen, but the men standing behind him were not there to signal restraint. And then he said something that stunned the room. He said he doesn't know whether this is escalation or de-escalation. Quote, I don't know. It depends what they do. That is the commander of the most powerful military in human history, genuinely uncertain whether what he is about to order is war or peace. And tonight, at 8 p.m., that uncertainty ends. Now understand what bombing Iran's power plants actually means, not symbolically, concretely. Iran runs on natural gas. 86% of its electricity comes from gas-fired thermal plants. There are dozens of major facilities scattered across the country. The Bandar Abbas power plant near the Strait, capacity 1.3 gigawatts. The Isfahan complex, Shiraz, Tehran's multiple stations. If those go dark, Iran's water treatment systems fail. Hospitals lose power. Heating stops. Food refrigeration ends. Iranian youth organizations were already building human chains around power plants on Tuesday morning. Thousands of young people standing hand in hand around civilian infrastructure, trying to make the optics of a strike undeniable. The UN has issued fresh warnings that civilian infrastructure is protected under international law. The European Commission president said targeting power plants makes civilians the primary victims. Human rights officials pointed out that destroying power plants means no heat, no electricity, no water, and no capacity to move or flee. Trump responded to none of it. He said if he bombed the country into the Stone Age, the Iranian people would eventually be free. The intelligence picture surrounding tonight's deadline is extraordinary. According to senior sources, Pakistan's army chief has been in direct contact through the night with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and Iran's foreign minister. Text messages are reportedly being exchanged directly between Witkoff and the Iranian foreign minister. Egypt and Turkey are also in the room, working to broker something, anything, that gives the clock more time. A 45-day ceasefire proposal is on the table, put forward by Pakistan as a last-ditch framework. Trump called it a significant step. Then he said it's not good enough. Iran rejected it entirely. Tehran's position is firm. A ceasefire, Iranian officials say, is just a pause to regroup and commit crimes again. They watched Gaza. They watched Lebanon. They will not accept a pause. They want a permanent end to the war. They want reconstruction commitments. They want sanctions lifted. They want the strait reopened only when Iran is compensated for what has been done to it. They are demanding terms from the country that is threatening to bomb them into darkness tonight. Iran's military is not backing down. Following Trump's threats this weekend, Iran's Central Military Command warned of a response that would be devastating, continuous, and expanded beyond anything seen yet. Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bakir Kalibaf said that if the U.S. attacks civilian targets, the flow of global energy can be disrupted with a single signal. Iran has already attacked oil infrastructure in Saudi Arabia and the UAE. It has struck at American bases in Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and Jordan. An Iranian drone struck a British military base in Cyprus. Ballistic missiles were reportedly launched toward Diego Garcia, the remote U.S. base in the Indian Ocean. If Trump bombs power plants tonight, the Iranian military has promised that nothing in the region will be off limits. Gulf states, U.S. allies, are already activating their air defense systems daily. The world's largest LNG facility has already sustained missile damage that could take 5 years to repair. At $170 per barrel oil, which analysts say is possible if the strait stays closed through the second quarter, global inflation nearly doubles. Central banks lose control of their mandates. Emerging market currencies collapse. The U.S. midterms are fought on the price of bread. This is the math of tonight. Here is what makes Trump's deadline different from all the ones before it. He has pushed it, again, and again, and again. Adversaries noticed. Iran's negotiators have been described in diplomatic cables as testing every extension, exploiting every pause, betting on the probability that Trump blinks. This time, a senior U.S. defense official told Axios they are skeptical there will be any extension. Trump would take a deal if he got one, a source close to Trump said, but it's unclear if the Iranians are ready. It will be extremely tense until Tuesday at 8 p.m. Netanyahu is on the phone, urging Trump not to take a weak deal. Lindsey Graham is publicly lobbying against any ceasefire that doesn't include full Iranian surrender of its enriched uranium. The hawks around Trump want escalation tonight. The diplomats want more time. Only one man decides. And according to everyone in the room, everyone in every room, he has not decided yet. The economic stakes have now crossed a threshold that no American president can ignore. Gas at $4 is politically survivable. Gas at $6 is not. Brent crude at $126 is already the highest since the Russia-Ukraine war. If Trump bombs power plants and Iran retaliates by targeting Gulf oil infrastructure, Saudi Arabia's Ras Tanura terminal, the UAE's Fujairah, Wall Street analysts are now publicly discussing $170 a barrel. Some are whispering $200. At $200 a barrel, the global economy enters territory it has never visited. Supply chains that recovered from COVID-19 do not recover again. Food prices in the developing world do not come down. The inflation that central banks spent 3 years fighting returns. Sharper, faster, and without a clear cause they can address by raising interest rates. Trump knows this. He watches oil prices in real time. Crude jumped $2 while he was still speaking at Monday's press conference. He noticed. There is one more thing you need to understand about tonight's deadline. A U.S. Air Force F-15E was shot down over Iran last week. Both crew members ejected. One weapons officer was rescued in what Trump called a historic operation, conducted with Israeli intelligence support deep inside Iranian territory. The other crew member remains unaccounted for. A U.S. service member is potentially in Iranian hands. If that fact is true, and it has not been officially confirmed, it adds an entirely new dimension to every threat and every calculation happening in the next few hours. Presidents do not bomb the country that holds their prisoner. Or they do, and the world finds out which kind of president this is. Tonight is a test of several things simultaneously. It is a test of whether Trump's ultimatums are real. Every deadline he has set in this war has been extended. Iran has watched that pattern and adapted to it. If he extends again tonight, he loses the deterrent forever. Iran will fight this war knowing his words have a ceiling he will not cross. If he strikes, the consequences radiate outward in every direction, economically, militarily, diplomatically, and no one in any room tonight can fully model what comes next. It is a test of Iran's calculations. Tehran has rejected every temporary offer. It is either supremely confident that Trump will blink, or it is supremely committed to forcing a permanent settlement regardless of the cost. Either position is dangerous, neither is bluffing. It is a test of the global economy's resilience. 38 days into this war, the IEA has already released emergency oil reserves at a record pace, 400 million barrels, enough for 4 days of global consumption. The buffer is not infinite. And it is a test of something no one in Washington wants to say out loud. Whether a war that began while diplomats were still at the table has an off-ramp that anyone can actually reach. The clock is running. It is Tuesday, April 7th. At 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Donald Trump either launches the most devastating air campaign against Iranian civilian infrastructure in the history of the conflict, or he makes a decision, and the world learns something new about him. Either way, something ends tonight. The question is, what begins? 1 month of war. Over 2,000 Iranians dead. At least 26 Israelis killed. Over 220 children in Tehran's hospitals or beneath its rubble. Oil at levels not seen in 4 years. The world's most critical waterway closed. A U.S. airman possibly in Iranian captivity. Negotiations happening in real time through text messages between adversaries who may be hours from obliterating each other's civilian infrastructure. And at the center of all of it, one man, one clock, one deadline. Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The world is watching.